Hi everyone, Sun Lion here. Welcome to Terra Lore Naturals broadcast. Terra means earth, lore means vast amounts of knowledge, and naturals is all the different healing modalities for the body, mind, and spirit. So you can feel your best on your personal journey to wellness. In this second part series of stress, trauma, and PTSD, we're going to cover the signs, symptoms, and different coping techniques for PTSD and trauma. And at the end, we're also going to do an actual introduction to what cognitive behavioral therapy is. So in part one, we covered stress, trauma, and PTSD. Stress can lead to trauma, and trauma can lead to a diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder. We also discussed the different signs and symptoms of trauma. We covered the physical, the cognitive, mental, emotional, and behavioral. And I've highlighted a few because we're going to go into these a little bit more in detail. Where in the cognitive mental section, I highlighted the memory problems because a lot of people who have trauma or PTSD really suffer from difficulty with their memories, poor abstract thinking, poor attention. It really is very difficult for the mind to process information. Emotionally, they have a lot of difficulty with anxiety, depression. Depression leads to isolation. They also could have a considerable amount of fear depending on what the trauma was. Especially, they may experience a lot of triggers around their trauma. So, for instance, someone who had a car accident may have a lot of fear getting in a car or being in a car with someone driving or driving too fast or something like that. A lot of times they may be feeling very overwhelmed. That is a very big sign and symptom of anyone who has suffered trauma and PTSD. It is very easy for them to get overwhelmed, especially in large crowds or around loud noises, which then leads to feelings of loss of emotional control. They just cannot help the way they feel. In the first video, we also covered what the brain scan looked like. The brain scan on the left is the individual who has a diagnosis of PTSD, and we covered what all of this red and the yellow was and how it was lit up like a Christmas tree, and that is an exhibit of the brain showing excited activity in the prefrontal cortex, which is up at the top, and on the left side, that's down on the side of the brain where the hippocampus is. And the brain scan on the right, where the individual has very little yellow and red, which would indicate that there was little to no trauma going on here with their brain activity, and very little going on in the prefrontal cortex, which is looking very normal. In this brain scan on the left, it also shows that there is some shrinkage of the brain here, where on the scan on the right, it shows a marked difference. And all of that leaves the brain's battery completely drained of any energy, which is why a lot of people have a difficulty with cognitive thinking and memory, and just have memory loss altogether, or just cannot get the words out when they're trying to express themselves. We also covered different coping skills that people can do. Is and I put them in reverse order. So starting from the bottom up, we're going to cover in a little bit. Number 3 is to reach out for support, confide in someone, and know that you are not alone. Attend peer support groups, join online support groups and online communities, especially during 2021, where everyone's been shut in. It has been extremely difficult for individuals with mental health diagnosis and especially trauma to find that natural support, and that isolation that people are really feeling is becoming very wearing on people. So hopefully things will be opening up soon, and try not to isolate yourself and be honest about your feelings and your needs. That is so important. It is okay to say, I'm just not feeling okay today. I can't do that. Work towards a healthy lifestyle, eating a balanced diet, and getting enough sleep. Get out in the sun. Also, develop a relaxing bedtime routine. That could be reading a book. Try avoiding being on the computer up late because of the white light and the blue light and the screens. It just lights up that brain activity, and people have a lot more difficult time sleeping. Try avoid stimulants such as coffee. Also, get out, get moving. Exercise really does a tremendously wonderful things for the body. Also, be patient with yourself. Keep a journal, jot down notes, pay attention to what triggers you. Learn what your triggers are. That is key, especially for the exercise that we're going to be doing coming up shortly. Educate yourself and others about what your needs are, what your triggers are. Practice mindfulness. Whenever you're having intrusive thoughts or invasive thoughts, for every one negative thought that someone has, it takes 3 positive thoughts to counteract that one negative thought. So practice coming up with a mantra, or finding something that you can think about that makes you happy. That could be just a puppy licking your neck, or just being out in the sun, or hearing children laugh. Something that makes you feel good inside. Carry around an object, again, we talked about that keeps you here and tethered in the moment. A lot of times people with trauma tend to check out, and an object can be really a great technique to keep you grounded and in the moment. And trying aromatherapies, fragrances that make you feel good, are also very beneficial. And most importantly, speak to a professional. If you're in the United States, each state has a mental health association in your area. You can look it up on a website, and you can connect with a mental health professional who is trained in trauma, counselors, etc. They can also direct you for small groups. You can join a group therapy sessions, and also look for family therapy as well with someone who is specifically trained in trauma. And speaking of being trained in trauma, specifically someone who is trained in EMDR and CBT. So going back to the brain slide again, we're going to go over this one more time, and to talk about now the different types of cognitive behavioral therapy. So the first one is cognitive behavioral therapy. The acronym is CBT, which is a multi-phase treatment that works with an individual's core belief structure to identify triggers, behaviors, and restrictive thoughts. EMDR is an emotional eye movement desensitization and emotional distress process. It uses an 8-phase treatment using both the left and the eye movement as bilateral stimulation. This may also include tapping. It could use headphones with alternative sounds from the left ear to the right ear, or use handheld devices that vibrate or shake alternating hands. There's also cognitive behavioral therapy that is known as progressive counting therapy, and that's the one we're going to do a practice exercise in just a moment. It is a multi-phase treatment that uses progressive counting to desensitize the trigger responses to traumatic situations. This particular CPT was created by a gentleman by the name of Ricky Greenwald, and it was back in 2013 that he introduced this, and it has been peer reviewed and it has gotten really great results. So Ricky, if you're listening to this broadcast, hats off to you. Well done. Now, the 8 phases that are discussed with these different cognitive therapy treatments is all based around the 8 dimensions of wellness. The first dimension is the personal wellness, and out of personal wellness, each one of these, the emotional, the social, the physical, the spiritual, environmental, intellectual, and occupational, all revolve and touch our personal wellness. So someone with PTSD or trauma who is feeling withdrawn is not able to establish and maintain positive relationships with family, friends, and coworkers. We also addressed in the first video, how it can affect people and their job and their occupation, which again touches on the ability to get personal fulfillment from our jobs or our chosen career field while maintaining balance in our life. It addresses the spiritual and the physical, emotional. So this also is used for many other different therapeutic approaches to wellness. And I just wanted to touch on it here to give you a look at what this looks like. If you're interested in downloading this, you can head over to my Tara Laura Naturals chat channel on Telegram, and you can download a version of it there. Okay, so this is my explanation when I am trying to explain this to youth. Although I am not tech savvy, I have learned a little bit along the way. So in this diagram, over here on the left, we have like the neural network of the computer. That's like the circuit board, circuitry that's sending out all of the information throughout the computer. Then we have the random access memory, the RAM. In a computer, this is what it would look like. And on the far right, we have the hard drive of the computer, and that would be our mental hard drive. So in the brain, if we're likening this brain scan of the individual on the left with all this red and yellow lit up, that is all of the random access memory going on in this individual's brain. And over here, there's very little of the random access memory going on. Now, going back to our explanation of the RAM for the computer, so all the red and the yellow and the orange is being used in this random access memory right here. And the goal of cognitive behavioral therapy is to move all of the memories that are going on constantly from the RAM to the hard drive. This is kind of like having an awful lot of programs running all at the same time on your laptop or your computer. And the more you have open, the slower your computer becomes until you have to clean out your browser history. And that's kind of what cognitive behavioral therapy does, is it helps clear out your browser history of all of that memory and trauma and moves it over here to the hard drive. Doesn't mean it goes away. It just means that if you want to access it, you have to work a little bit harder to get to it, kind of like filing a picture away in your computer hard drive. It's not going to pop up from your desktop. Now we're going to introduce you to an actual cognitive therapy exercise. Now, I'm going to explain how this works first. I'm going to count back to 1. I'm going to start with a certain number and I'm going to count back from to 1. And what I would like you to do is to think of a memory, something that isn't too triggering for you. So if you had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 5, think of something that's probably like a 2. Public speaking, or something like that. Something mild, little uncomfortable, but not too igniting. All right, and then I'm going to count back from 5 to 1. So don't start bringing the thought up until I start counting. Okay, ready? Now, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you're out. Good. Now take a nice deep breath in and assess what's going on in your body and give yourself a rating. How was that for you? Let me know in the comments below. So give yourself a rating on a 0 to 5. If it started around a 2 or a 3, did it drop? Was that too terribly uncomfortable for you? 5 being the worst, 0, nothing happened. So now we're going to do it again, only this time I'm going to increase the time just a little bit more. Okay? When I start counting, start to recall the memory. Okay? 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're out. And take a nice deep breath in and exhale. Good. Now, do a check-in with yourself. And how was that for you? Give yourself an assessment. If it was a 1, did it stay a 1? Did it decrease to a 0? Let me know in the comments below. Now we're going to do this one more time, only this time I'm going to count back. But as I do so and you're recalling the memory, I want you to try to move your eyes back and forth from left to right as I'm counting while you're calling up the memory. So let's give it a try. Okay, ready? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're out. Good. Now take another deep breath in and exhale. Let me know how that was in the comments below. Give yourself a rating. Do a check-in with yourself. How was that? Would you rate it as a 1 or was that a 0? Let me know. So that is a very basic introduction of what cognitive behavioral therapy would look like on a very brief scale. Obviously, there's a lot more to that, but that's just a brief introduction. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that it wasn't too traumatic for you, and that it moved that uncomfortable memory down to a 0. And most importantly, with cognitive behavioral therapy and or any other self-help groups or anyone who is suffering from mental illness and trauma, please know that you are not alone. So I want to thank you for watching this video. Thank you for your likes and shares. Again, if you have any questions, please head over to Telegram to Terralore Naturals chat channel. You'll find me hanging out there. Please leave comments below in the comments section. And thank you for the likes and the shares. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you're notified when I upload my next video. And you will always be informed. And thank you so much for sharing and helping get this important message out to the public. I so appreciate you. And thank you so much. And I hope you take care. God bless. And may you always enjoy the love of learning.